Okay everyone, we're now ready for chapter 3. Most of you are probably pretty familiar with your minor pentatonic shape, and some of you may be very familiar also with your major pentatonic shape. Now we're moving into the Hindu pentatonic shape, or dominant pentatonic, depending on what it's sometimes referred to. I tend to recall it the Hindu pentatonic because that's how I was taught it. This is obviously going to be used over dominant seventh chords. Your minor pentatonic is going to work great over minor chords. Your major pentatonic shapes are going to work great over your major chords. And this scale, the Hindu pentatonic, is going to work over dominant scales, which is pretty cool because from the first 3 chapters of this book, you can tackle all 3 different types of chords. There are only 3 different types of chords in essence: major, minor and dominant. Yes, there are other variations too, but they're the 3 core families. So we're going to head on into the Hindu pentatonic. And for anyone frightened by the name, it's simply just your A minor, or your minor pentatonic, but you've raised the minor third up to a major third all the way throughout. So what you'll figure with this is it's actually incredibly similar to your minor pentatonic. You're just going to get maximum value in your licks by adapting one new note. Let's go and have a look at these 5 licks. Okay, so there was lick 1 around our E shape of this Hindu pentatonic. I first really got interested in this sound by players like Jeff Beck and Eric Johnson. I noticed that at that time I had sort of minor pentatonic licks going on and stuff, but this gave a real new sound, fresh sound to my playing when I was playing over dominant 7th chords. Especially in this example, you could be playing it over your A7, as mentioned in the book. This lick here, almost very similar to a normal minor pentatonic lick. As I mentioned in the introduction, there's only one note difference, and those notes in this lick itself is going to be the 6th fret of the third string, the G string, and then the octave above that as well, which is the 9th fret of the top, or the E string, both those notes of C sharp there, giving you the major third. So make sure you get this nice and fluid, this lick, back and forth. The hammer-on pull-off on the top string takes a little bit of practice because you're going to hammer from 5 to 9 and then pull back off to your index finger using your little hammer-on pull-off technique there. So take it slowly, watch the videos a few times around to get it in your mind, and let's go and have a look at example 2. Alright, so here's our D shape of our A Hindu pentatonic. You'll notice with these, as you're going through some of these examples, that you're getting slightly bigger stretches and slightly less familiar territory as we go throughout the book in different chapters. That's okay, just allow your fingers to become familiar with the tab shapes at the top of each page first, play through the scale various times, do all the drills from the earlier chapter learning your scales, and sometimes once you've done that, the licks will feel easier to play because they'll be slipping under the fingers more easily. This lick itself, you've got nice little hammer-on pull-off again. The jump between the 7th fret of the G string and the 11th fret of the D, it takes a little bit of practice. Once again, in a similar way you had on the top string, you've got this big gap. You're going to be using your index and your little finger, so work on your little finger power. If you don't normally use it, it's very, very useful to get that stretch. Most of the time, of course, you're applying a finger per fret rule, but sometimes you're going to have to stretch that to get a note above that as well. So take it slowly as always, and let's get on to example 3. Okay, there was our lick 3. In this lick here, we've got a technique that I think is underused these days, and that is the unison bend. What a unison bend is where you've got one note that you're already fretting, and then you're bending a note on the string above it to become the same pitch as that. Now, this is incredibly useful for getting your bending bang on in tune, because when you do a unison bend that's out of tune, it's not so great, and it will irritate everyone around you, especially the cat. So, in this example here, make sure you get the nice little rhythm on the start, sliding on the top strings, as you saw there, and get these unison bends perfectly in pitch, bending the 12th fret of the 3rd string and having the 10th fret underneath there, and then finishing off with that nice little dominant Hindu pentatonic finish there. Quite sweet sounding, works really, really well over all these dominant 7th chords. Let's move on to example 4. Okay, there was example 4 up around the A shape. This one's quite nice because you've got different bends on the same string. So on the top string there we've got a 15th fret bend and then a 14th fret bend, but you can see they're different distances when you're looking at your tab there. You've got sort of a whole tone, then a half tone, and then you've got some different variations in rhythm. You see that there's a little chunk in the middle with the 12th and 14th frets where I go da-da-da-da, and there's a little bit quicker. And that's nice to inject this little triplet in there as well. So don't keep your rhythms all the same. Mix up your dynamics, mix up your rhythms, and keep your licks sounding fresh. And of course, don't use the licks that I've done here. Make your own ones around the scales in this book. Let's get on to example 5. This is a little unusual riff here. We've got some quite dissonant notes ringing into each other as we start off here with the 6th fret of the G string, the 3rd fret of the B string, then 5 and 2 there on the next strings up there. Then we finish off with a little classic kind of dominant Hindu run once again. I quite like this sort of dissonance. It's especially fun just for creating slightly unusual sounds, and as you go through the book the sounds will get progressively more different and out there and flavoursome. So hopefully you've enjoyed these licks from the Hindu Pentatonic. I certainly think it's one of my favourite chapters to teach because it breaks people into new sounds very, very quickly. You're only adapting one note from your normal minor pentatonic. So pop on the Hindu, the blues backing, the A7 backing, and we will get on to our next chapter.